Hello everyone, it's Matt here, and there's been quite a few changes to one project which has kind of been left on the sidelines and on the back burner for quite a long time, but it has had quite a lot of updates. I did spend a good portion of yesterday dealing with this, so it's probably had about, like I said, 4 to 6 hours over yesterday and what's occurred today. I mean, it is only 20 past 10 in the morning, but there's been quite a lot of progress and quite a lot of changes and up detailing and a few other bits and pieces which haven't occurred before. Um, and it's really sort of changed the project in terms of how it looks and everything else. Um, so obviously the project I'm talking about is actually the Suburban tank engine, which you've probably seen because of the description, but or the title or whatever. But there's been quite a few changes. I'm going to go over to the uh, LDD file now. So here we are. This has been reworked in several places. The roof has been changed from being a openable hatch to being a sliding hatch. The reason for that is that now you can fit I can fit a PFX, not PFX, power functions receiver in there, which needs a Bluetooth hole. So that's why there's a hole in the cab roof for that. So a sliding one fits better for that aesthetic. Um, I've redone the entire detail on the boiler, and actually put in the boiler itself because it was just barely anything there, and it's been extended as well. So it ended roughly where those two are there. So it roughly ended there originally in the this colour, like the smoke box, sort of dark bluish grey colour, and I've actually just literally just tacked on another section here, a completely different section, just for the smoke box and extension, so it actually is sort of scaled more correctly. And also we got some roof detail here. A lot of this roof detail you might notice is very similar to the New Haven Y3 I built for Octrainber this year, and that's because quite literally it is. I actually imported the model and pinched off good portions of the details, such as the steam generator here, or the dynamo, the sandbox assembly here, that's been copied over, the dome's been copied over, the whistle has been copied over. I mean, the detail's been mirrored slightly, so the whistle's actually on the other side, the steam generator output's on the other side, but a lot of the other detail is the same. I've redone the chassis as well, or certainly the forward half of the chassis, so it is a bit stronger and integrates better. The cylinders, I've had to redo the cylinders. I've actually redone the cylinders since doing the LDD version, because these cylinders aren't quite far enough out, so I've had to go for 10 wide for the cylinders. But that's a nominal compromise, and to be honest, it's one I'm happy with because generally speaking, the rest of it looks okay and in scale, so I'm not too bothered about that. I've redone the front as well, so the front actually I've had to copy Kale Leapart example, because Kale actually did a Central New Jersey Suburban tank engine already, and some of this is actually inspired by his, but there's Suburban tank engines for the Boston and Albany, Canadian National, and there's quite a few others as well dotted around of various types. So I've been using quite a lot of those as inspiration and taking little bits off from this one, taking a little bit off that one, and doing that sort of thing. And one of the big things that I've actually not long done is actually change around the front here, because it turns out the steps are actually not connected to anything. So I've had to quickly redo those to fit those in, because obviously these are just stacks here, and then there's just a clip there. So in actual fact, all these end pieces are just held in by this bar here. So it is a bit flaky in terms of strength there, but nevertheless it should be okay, providing you handle the size correctly. And I've made quite a good use of these parts here. These were introduced last year, I believe. These are the 2x2 plate with only two knobs on one side, so it's like two knobs are missing. Bricklink classes these as a modified tile, but they're more of a modified plate rather than a modified tile, because there's bits removed rather than bits added. And obviously, because of the change in bogey, because I did originally just try and do a copy of the back. I've actually redone the detail around the front, so it's a bit better. So obviously, this is supposed to be either the uncoupling bar or maybe a handrail, but probably an uncoupling bar is probably more likely. So I'll fit minifigure hands to the end here to actually act as the uncoupling levers for minifigs to hold. But it also makes a good location to put on one of these, what originally robot hands, but you see them in various things. And I'm actually going to be using that to host the brake pipe. So the brake pipe is actually going to come off the end there with the usual sort of 1L bit of flex tube with a minifig hand inserted, and that's going to actually come off there. And I'm actually going to use that same technique for here as well. So this is actually the steam heat pipe, I think it is. So that's not a proper representation, it's just imitation. And the reason that there's actually a lever here rather than an actual flex tube is that this whole platform is actually mounted to the front bogie, so it's not actually connected to the main body at all. And that's actually something I've stolen, if you like, off Cale's version, because I just thought it's the easiest way to do the detail. I was originally aiming for a proper flush, like proper full foot plate that had actually come off the main body, and then I realised I was really having to do quite a lot of complex construction for the front, so I had a look at cars and suddenly realised that he'd actually set the front bogie with the minimalist of the front actually attached to the bogie, so it saves him having to do the bodywork all that way. And as I went, that's actually a really good idea, and I've copied that. And obviously you've got your smoke box supports here. Obviously these aren't actually connected, but there are just an imitation there. The handrail as well, you can't really see it in LDD because obviously it's not really supported, but the handrail actually comes across the boiler here, and then I'll actually take a 90-degree turn here. So what I might do is just have this bit as flex tube and a minifig hand connecting to that one. I'm not decided yet. I might just do it as a bit of straight flex tube, and then actually just use a heat gun or soldering iron to actually create a 90-degree curve to actually fit in there. And obviously there's quite a lot of other bits and pieces, and obviously the issue is because I've got these side tanks here, which are more of a European thing, or which are a European thing for these sort of engines, is that it does sort of take away some of the space for detail. So obviously around this section you'd actually have the firebox and a few other bits and pieces, and I was actually going to do a representation. Unfortunately, the receiver here has actually got in the way, so I've not been able to do that. But I've had to move some of the detail in other places. So there's no feed water heater on these. I would love one, but I don't know where to put one. I might be able to squeeze one in next to this dynamo here. I'm not too sure. I've got a weird cylinder here. I just thought it looks like it would be there or should be there, so I'll just put one in there. And then you've got another couple of hours here. I actually saw these not on the Suburban tank engine, but on a Central New Jersey Camelback, which is a 460. And I thought they looked kind of neat, so I've shoved them up there. They're probably, I don't know precisely what they are, but they do look like they should belong there, and it makes a nice cluttered sort of industrially sort of look to the tank engine with all this greebling and detail. The rear of the model looks pretty much as it did originally, and there's not been many changes there, but I have changed around some of the handrail stanchion points and a few of the bits and pieces, so it does look a bit better. But talking about it is one thing, but there's been quite a lot of detail on the physical model as well. So the physical model, I think a few people have actually seen it before, and I've actually shown it off before in the previous video I did on the Bricking It episode, but a good portion of yesterday and a good portion of while I've been awake this morning has been spent actually doing it. So, ta-da! It's not the correct colours. You can obviously there's some brown, light aqua, I think it is. There's blue windows. It's sort of like a bee bonnet sort of boiler because it's got the yellow bands. The front is obviously a pretty good one. There's no bogey wheels in the front bogey, and there's quite a lot of detail missing. And you're missing a whole chunk of boiler here. I mean, it's all see-through, so you know, I can poke my finger through. But nevertheless, this is a massive change to what it was yesterday. And I've even added the cab doors minus the clip for the sort of sort of like the sort of lock, almost like the handle lock. So it makes a nice change. You know, and it's just had so much work done, and it's been so different compared to say 24 hours ago. It's unbelievable. I mean, they've even fitted the whistle in, so you know, this has been quite a massive leap from what's gone on before. And the roof is actually removable, and it's the same with the coal bunker. I mean, the coal bunker's actually held on with studs, but I can actually take off this section of the coal bunker, so it's got the lighting as well. And you can actually gain access to the battery, which is in there. And that again, that's a design thing I copied off Kale, but my end is actually brick built. Kale's I think is just held in with a few places, whereas mine's actually just fully bricked in. So it does shift the weight forward. Interestingly enough, before I was shooting this video, I'd actually got this one up there, and before I mounted the bogey in, so the bogey actually does do that. It's designed to swivel. It's a bit of height levering. It does sort of rotate round. This isn't actually proper because it's supposed to be a 3L thick bar there, and I've actually had to use 3 lift arms instead, or thin lift arms, so the thick lift arms. And I've actually got these supports slightly differently, and the loco actually tips forward. It's a very, even though it's quite a weighty loco, if you don't pivot, you put the supports on right, like these support bricks, it does actually tip forward. So it's got a nice weight to it. I think Studio said it was something like 500 grams or something like that. But obviously that's not a complete version, because obviously I've designed it in LD and done a little bit of work in Studio, which is where the renders came from, which will be on screen now. And they're actually quite nice renders, and you know, they just make it look so much better than it does in real life, because obviously it's just so patchwork. But yeah, you know, it's in quite a lot of detail, and the mechanism works fine. So yeah, it's literally just getting pieces in and testing it, because the big thing is that I don't know how these bogies are going to work. Are they going to work flying? You know, is there going to be issues with those? Do I need to rework the mechanism? Is there enough play? Which is the big issue, because they are dual pivot. Well, obviously, will they fit around the bogies and all this sort of stuff? So, you know, there's quite a lot of work to be done on the loco. But like most things, I need parts. So this is actually going to be left to one side now. I mean, I've done quite a good portion of work on it. I feel the past couple of days. So effectively, I'm going to leave it as is. But what I will show you, and I mean, the people on Instagram have seen the video already. But what I can do is turn the battery on. I'll just grab a Technic axle from the bins, and what I can do is put this in to the battery, because obviously it's a rechargeable battery, so it comes with the function. You can see the battery lights on. Is that I can do this. Look at that! Actual working sort of connecting rods and valve gear. Look at that. That's a first for me as well, to actually get something to this sort of level of functionality. And it, you know, works quite nicely. And I'll just move it away from the camera because it's a bit noisy. But you know, that's 3 and 4, 5, 6, and 7. And that's top speed as far as I'm aware. So it goes quite fast. And the mechanism does make a bit of a racket as well. So yeah, you know, that's the update. So yeah, there's been quite a lot of work happening to it. So I think it's time to put it back on the shelf and wait for some parts to be delivered, or to be ordered and delivered, I should say. So that's the updates for now. So obviously leave your comments if you got any questions, and see you back again in 2019. Hopefully with some progress. So that's it for this video, and see you later.
Guys, the winner of the Brett Cares competition is Ollie the Dragon. Saz, you are the winner. Very well done, Ollie the Dragon.